important that we show up for each other. And the men in the room, thanks for showing up, especially if you're married to or related to someone on stage. Well done. I'm Kara Smith-Brown. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm the CEO of BB Coverage. Many years ago, I worked at IWLA, which I'm so I have just a little bit of knowledge around logistics and supply chain, specifically in the warehouse. But this is not about me. This is about the three of these incredible women that are here with us today. They're going to share with us a little about their journeys, how they came to be in this wonderful industry, why they decided to stay in this wonderful industry. We've gotten to know each other over the last couple of weeks, and especially today, and I think there's some really fun, interesting anecdotes to share with you. So I will let each of them introduce themselves, and we'll start with Natalie.
I was going to say good morning, but it's afternoon, so sorry about that. Good afternoon, guys. So I'm Natalie Ceva. I am at a company called Jones Lang LaSalle. We do commercial real estate for all of you all. So we help folks with their real estate throughout the U.S., throughout the globe. And I actually stumbled into this. I had a previous career in entertainment production, so I went to school in Ithaca, upstate New York, and went to school for television production, went out to LA. I did acting and singing for 8 years, and then worked at Warner Brothers running their studio operations department, so anything that shot on the lot came through us. And then I hit 30, and I was like, oh, I want to move home. I'm done, I'm tired, so I went home to New Jersey and decided to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and got into industrial real estate, and here we are today. So,
Could you tell us just a little bit more about the singing and dancing part? I don't know if it's some singing and dancing in LA.
not dancing.
Okay, great. So like chaperone dancing, or is it like
Singing and acting.
acting? Got it.
Dancing I'm not very good at. Did singing and acting, which I would say mediocre at. And while I still love it, the industry was just tough industry. This is an industry I would much rather be a part of.
I love that.
Hands down.
Very different. Yeah, love it. And Tracy.
Tracy DiAngelo with MAI Fulfillment, and I got into it in an interesting way as well. My background is film and photography and visual arts. A family member owned a business, MAI, and asked me to help out one time, and I continued to help, and they hired me. And we put a presentation in front of a client, and it was on the marketing side of things. And that's what MAI stands for, Marketing Alternatives Inc. And they presented it, we presented it, and they said, let's do it, let's roll it out. And that included a fulfillment center and a call center. And the owner at the time said, well, how hard could it be to start a fulfillment center? And so we launched a fulfillment center, and from that day forward, I was the conduit between the client and our warehouse. And I've been there for 30 years, and every day is an adventure.
Well, Tracy, how has the business grown? Is it mostly fulfillment now?
Yeah.
Is that one location?
Yes, we have grown. So we started at about 40,000 square feet, and now we have about 600,000 square feet. Our marketing side of the business went like this, and our fulfillment went like this. And we really had that whole integration with the call center, the fulfillment, and the marketing. So we've grown. The business was purchased by a new owner in 2020, and they've done nothing but ingest funds, which is a beautiful thing. So it's enabled us to grow and enjoy the process.
Samantha Hubbard, I'm Vice President of Operations for Sonwil Distribution Center. I was literally born into the business. I am fourth generation. I grew up going into the warehouse, going to visit Dad at the office, and I always thought it was so cool seeing him sit at his desk, big way. I was like, oh, this looks like a cool thing to get into. So when I was time to go to college, I did one of the best schools in the country for supply chain. And I ended up at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And after college, I took a job with another 3PL that was much bigger than our family business to learn and explore what it was like outside the family business. So I did that for about 5 years. And then I got a phone call to say, hey, we're expanding. I need you to come back. I said, what do I do? He said, quit your job. I said, how do you do that? But I think I did the family business in 2018. And I've always loved it. I'm excited to see it continue to grow. And and be able to work with a lot of people who I've known since I was little. So that's what that means to the industry.
How much of the 5 years you spent away from the family business do you credit to your success being helpful or supportive or of being able to come back and make up here?
I think it was the best thing I did for my career was leaving, because it helped me learn how to be a manager away from the people who have known me since I was little, and people who just didn't know anything about my background. So it allowed me to fail, to make mistakes, to learn how to manage as a woman in the industry, and be able to bring those learnings back to the family business.
Sure. So we talked about how you made your way into the industry. One of the questions that we talked about a lot as part of first day is, what makes you stay? Right? We all have lots of opportunities. Maybe we go back to singing and acting. Both, it's so funny, as we're connecting today, both Tracy and Nicole went to school at the same school for production design, which is really good, right?
Yeah, production.
Yeah, so funny. So what made you, once you found supply chain, specifically warehouse, or industrial, what made you stay?
That's a great question. So for me, I can compare the two. So comparing acting, that whole career in comparison to this, they're a little similar in the sense of there's no 2 day the same. I absolutely love that about this. I love that. I love that it's competitive. It's very similar to acting, but what I do like more here is that I control my own destiny a little bit more. So with acting and singing, you know, you're doing multiple auditions a day, which if you grow up doing, you're used to a ton of rejection, and that just comes part of your day to day. There's a little bit less rejection here, which I love, but I'm still used to the rejection, so I'm okay with that. And with this, though, I know that if I work hard and I outwork the person next to me or whatever, I will actually get that business, and I know how to do that. With acting, you can, even if you outwork the person next to you, if you don't look right, you're gone. And so that didn't sit well with me. So I love this. It clicks all the other boxes that I kind of needed to.
I love it, yeah. Tracy, you have been at the same company for 30 years.
Yes.
Today. So tell us a little about your journey to stay in one spot for so long.
Yeah, it's been a learning experience, and I think I've been there that long because I've had so many opportunities to grow within the same organization. Starting as a traffic manager on the marketing side, and then getting to account executive, then director of client service. That enabled me to have that relationship and that conduit with the client and our team. And every day literally is an adventure. Like you said, no 2 days are the same. And I think I stayed because it's giving me the ability to grow as a person, and also the opportunities that it's basically provided me.
We talked about this at lunch today. Tell us a little bit about what traffic manager meant 30 years ago.
Yeah.
The marketing company is a little bit different than traffic managers in the industry today.
I was responsible, I had a clipboard, and I was responsible for literally going office to office. So copywriters, are you on track? Do you have your copy? Is it going to be due on Monday? Then I went to production and said, well, this won't be released because they're behind, so you have to adjust this accordingly. And I would literally report all of this back and then report back to our clients to let them know our timetables. So that's where a lot of time is always built in, that little buffer. So you always put a little week or 7 days in there just to cover ourselves.
That's right. We connected very deeply with the production schedule of the marketing kind of agency.
Yes, yes, old school.
Yeah. Samantha, it sounds like you're born into this. But you still choose to stay, and you have to choose to, intentionally be a part of the company you were at when you didn't work with families or become the 4th generation. Like, I'm sure that was there's a process to decide if that's what you wanted to do. What makes you stay?
What makes you stay is really the people and the collaboration. You just meet so many different people, not just in your company, but your customers and your vendors, and it's just a really great industry to be in where people actually want to support your business or help you improve it or just find more efficient ways to do things. So to me, you just get the opportunity so many people, not just in the city that you're in, but across the world. And to me, why else would I choose a different industry?
So we're going to start with you, Samantha, for our next question. You talked a lot about intentionally making choices to stay in this space. A lot of times that comes from a relationship with a mentor or someone who has a big impact on you, like as you're making those really pivotal decisions. How do you feel about mentorship as women in supply chain? I think mentors are really important. Nicole was sharing earlier that there are no women in industrial real estate. Is very rare anyway. So did you find other women that helped you? Were they mostly men? What was your kind of mentorship experience as you made this decision?
Yeah, unfortunately, I never had a woman mentor, but I did have some solid men throughout my time. When I worked for another 3PL, it was a mentorship program that I went through for about a year and a half, being able to work in different parts of their organization for certain periods of time. And the men who were my leaders were very good about making sure I was always included and supporting me when I had issues or how to manage difficult situations with team members. But unfortunately, never got the opportunity from a woman, which I think in some way then plays into how I've been able to be successful in the industry, just because I've always been surrounded by men and taught by men.
Do you find that you have brought some of that in mentorship, really structure and discipline that the other company gave? You brought some of that back to Sonwil?
Yeah, I really try to work and develop my team and provide that support. I think as an organization can always do better, but at the same time, if you don't take that time to meet with your team individually and learn what their goals are, you're going to lose those people. So you have to be willing to develop and work with your team to be able to not only progress your own career, but others, which only just helps the organization at the end of the day.
How about you, Tracy? Did you have a mentor or mentors that helped along the way?
I did. I think the initial founder of the company was my mentor, and he was family, so that meant a lot to me, and I worked very closely with him. I was his sidekick for about 25 years. And when he left, I did have the role of director of client service, and that enabled me to work very closely with a lot of women. So in a sense, I was their mentor, or at least I look at it that way. And I believe a couple of them felt that way as well. And that's really important, like you said. If you're not talking with them and working with them to see what their goals and what they're looking for to do or what they want in their careers, then it's a stronger relationship if you're able to have that connection.
Did you ever have any women that invested in you?
I belong to Vistage, which is a peer group. Yeah, and there were definitely a couple women that were in my group, and I definitely looked up to them, and we were very hard on each other. So yeah, I would say that they were mentors.
Sometimes it's exactly what you need from a mentor. Someone to call you on your, what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Inspiring on stage.
No swearing.
Okay. Natalie, how about you? As you made the pretty significant transition, you decided to stay in industrial real estate. Have there been men or women that have kind of mentored you on your journey?
More men than women. I feel like, especially in industrial brokerage, there are maybe more women on different asset classes like retail and office. In industrial, if you can imagine, there are really not that many, and the few that are, I've definitely bonded with. But I think me and a couple other of my colleagues, we are kind of trailblazing that a little bit. So, but even in production was also a very male-dominated industry, and so I pretty much have always just found men that I have gone along with, and they've helped me in taking care of the weight and walking through some of those just difficult times. My father is also works at Prologis, which is a large landlord for industrial users, and he's always kind of been in my corner, so I've always deferred to him if I need to.
Thanks so much for your answers. We're going to dive into the male-dominated industry now, which I know is always the hard question to ask. I'm actually going to read my paper to get the question out. So, thinking about being the only woman in those times, sometimes Samantha, probably being young woman, you mentioned a couple times the folks that have known you since you were a kid. How do you build the confidence to be in the room so you are the only woman? And then the second part of this question is, how can men in the audience better support this evolution of the women in their organizations showing up really confidently inside of this? Go back over there.
Well, to answer the first part, actually I'll do the second part, this is exactly, like, things like this, like, all of you coming, I know it's later on in the day, I think being curious, not to like quote Ted Lasso, but I can love that show. Just being curious, you know, and I think like keeping an open mind. If you're planning an event, like I always get left out of industrial brokerage things because it's cigars, whiskey, and golf. Well, I do love whiskey and I do play a little bit of golf, but I'm not going to smoke a cigar or fish it, right? So just little things like that, or just inclusivity and being curious. Everything you learn since you're like a kindergartner, those little things. And then when it comes back to being the only woman in a room sometimes, I bring it back to my acting career. I had one piece of advice that I actually loved from an acting coach was how would, if you're walking to an audition, you're walking into a room, or maybe you're nervous or whatever, pick your favorite actor, be different in this industry a little bit, but maybe pick your favorite actor. How would Jennifer Aniston walk into a room? And then be her. Walk into the room like that. And it's like you own it. Like you're fine, you're there, you're okay. And that's just gotten me through every single walking up on stage, you're a little nervous, right? You're scared, you don't know what you're gonna say. Who am I? Okay, I'm Jennifer Aniston.
Right on, girl. Yeah. I'll bring her back to Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Also not married.
No. It's okay. It's okay. Heartbreak.
I really appreciate that. A good girlfriend of mine is also like a life coach type person.
Yeah.
And she talks about borrow someone else's confidence.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You can have a school of mine if you're nervous. Yeah, of course. I got plenty. Tracy, how about you? Have you thought about either the confidence to be in the room and or what the allies around you can do to help the women that you're maybe mentoring at MAI to be more confident?
Sure. From a confidence standpoint and walking into a room, especially if you're the only female, I think being prepared is the biggest thing, to know what you're talking about and to have sound bites and to know that you wouldn't be in that room if you weren't there to add value. So I just try to remind myself of that. And as it relates to men helping women, I think if you advocate for us more often, that helps. And if there are opportunities where we're not in the room, that you could potentially offer us as being part of being in that room. I think, and they do that today. I mean, even an event like this has been wonderful this week. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Samantha, how about you on your journey? Have you found ways for the men around you to help you feel confident? And you're really young, so tell me that can be not just maybe the only woman in the room, but sometimes the youngest manager in the room.
Yeah, my advice to them has always been, they're not going to invite you to the room if you're not supposed to be there. So reminding yourself that you're invited for a reason. And again, I think showing up prepared and knowing what you want to talk about. Where I think I can help them in the room is knowing that they probably have some type of imposter syndrome and feel like they shouldn't be there. But allow them an opportunity to speak or answer or give their opinion. They may be nervous to and just to speak essentially out of turn, but if you give them that platform, I think we can learn a lot.
So I wouldn't be doing us any justice on a panel in our industry if I didn't mention AI. So obviously we have to have a question about AI, but I really like the connection, Samantha, between being prepared, because I think you said it too, like really showing up prepared. And so I'm wondering, are you seeing, and we'll start with you, are we seeing women show up to the AI conversation differently than the men in your organization? And if they're not, is there something that you're looking forward to, maybe in a way that women are going to be using this new technology versus their male counterparts?
obviously seen a difference in like age,
Generation.
generation. I mean, I'm slower to it, but I think some of the older generation has an issue with maybe giving up some of that. Sorry, that scared me. Maybe just giving up some of that information. But I think if it's like, so at JLL we basically build our own ChatGPT for leases, for real estate specifically. So we've been using it like so say if you have like 10 leases across the US, whatever that looks like, it sits into this portfolio analytics tool. And then we basically take this little AI bot and then we can say, okay, you're sitting on top of all of our data, all of the lease data that we track throughout the entire US. Tell me, Mr. AI, whatever, what are the biggest issues that we should be looking at for the next 12 to 24 months based off of my lease is X and I'm expiring in the next 24 months, where should I be concerned? And it'll like quickly spit out information that then we can go, as humans, go and fact check. But those are the things that we've been using. So with that, I'm seeing more people get on board because it's actually like, it's very useful and quick.
So almost like a market analysis tool.
Totally.
Then you can bring it to your client,
Yeah.
talk about risks
Yes.
in their portfolio.
Or strengths, or like, hey, let's try to take advantage of this, you know, anything like that. That's been something that I've now gotten on board on. I think it's like a gateway to opening up to the rest of, you know, what else is it using?
Yeah. Are you seeing it be gender or generational specific? Who's kind of like grabbing on the younger generation?
Totally. Yeah, the younger generation. But I think like you need the older generation as well. So like when they bring someone else in, like, hey, like we'll be walking through this. Like let's go through this together, and then we'll use it for their next pitch or their next client.
It's interesting to connect the idea of mentorship and technology. The idea of reverse mentorship, right? Like,
Yeah.
let me hold your hand, Grandpa. Tracy, go down this AI path together, right? And then he's rocking it with AI. Yeah, he's crushing it. Anyway, another story for another day. But Tracy, have you seen either generational or gender specific kind of running at some of these maybe problems in business with tech or maybe a little bit of resistance?
No, I haven't seen the resistance, and our technology team is using AI today, and I had to laugh when we were just saying that because I am all over it, and I'm really educating myself on it, and I'm playing. And the biggest reason for doing that is so that I can speak to my 23 and 24 year old. Honestly, so when I go home and I bring something up and I say, well, I want to do this and I want to do that, my son just says, oh, well, you just take this and you do that, and you upload your Excel, and, you know, and it's amazing to me, and it's a conversation that I am able to have with him. And so I am taking a certificate class right now, just to understand it better and to know how to use it. I do use it regularly, and I know my team is. So I don't find it, you know, man versus woman, but I do see that everybody's trying to learn what they can about it.
And like if you do reverse mentorship from your children, that's pretty cool, right? Like show me, maybe you don't have a job, so teach mom how to do it.
I will pay you, you can just stay here.
Right, you can stay here rent free, just teach me AI. I like that, I like that. Samantha, how about you? Are you seeing specific either gender or age specific groups kind of latch on to the AI faster?
Definitely more, I think, generational than gender. I personally haven't used AI a lot. I use it to pick out paint colors for my bathroom. Just great recommendations, by the way. But I've seen my team use it more so for email support, which to me, if it's going to help them communicate better with our customers, then I fully support it. I had a conversation with our CIO last week about AI, about kind of what direction are we going to go in. And he kind of wants to start on the smaller end of things. So we provide that support for our team to help with email and communication. And then it's like very repetitive data entry tasks. Because for him, it's really important to have continuity. And that he made a point that I didn't think about is if we put everything into AI and something goes wrong, then how does he go about fixing it? Who's responsible for it? And how can you pinpoint it? Is it too far down the supply chain at that point? So So I think we're definitely taking a more reserved approach as an organization, but I do think it has its benefits in supporting all team members in the sense of communication.
Those are big questions, which I think are really important. Are you seeing any pushback from the younger folks on your team on, hey, we're not moving fast enough, or I'm seeing that on my team. I have some of my team members are like, look what I built in Claude. I'm like, what exactly? Where did you put that? Like, where exactly did you get that information? Are you seeing any of that pushback from your folks?
Yeah, I think our younger folks are like, AI is fabulous, let's put everything in there. And, but when you start to talk about the bigger picture, the bigger impact it can have, it helps them, I think, slow their roll a little bit and help come up with a solution to be able to use it, but be conservative of it.
Yeah. Switching gears just a little bit towards thinking through this leadership decisions a little bit, I feel like you kind of hit on, sometimes specifically with AI, it can feel really easy, right? Like, hey, just do this simple thing and it'll solve all your problems. And the executive in you has to say, okay, we have to consider all of the risks, right? So thinking about leadership impact, when you're kind of decision-making drivers, as you're making those decisions, as you're thinking like an executive, but maybe executing at the mid-level, how are you kind of thinking about those decisions? Are you spending more time instinctually basing decisions on data, or maybe a little bit of both? And do you think that's a male-female thing, or do you think it might just be a kind of who you are as a person?
Yeah. I definitely go both. I try and look at any big decision from all angles. I have the benefit growing up in the business is being able to work in all the different departments and learning how they work together. So one decision on one side could have an impact in another department that someone doesn't think of. So I really try to look at it holistically. But something that I was taught and my siblings were taught at a very young age from my father was make a decision. It is worse if you make no decision. If you make a decision that's wrong, we can work through it. But all you gotta do is make a decision at the end of the day. So I try not to do analysis paralysis too much and just kind of go with my gut after looking at the data.
That sounds like really good advice. Do you think it is, how to ask this question, like, do you think it's like counterintuitive for women to just be decisive? Did you have to think about it, or were you just trained from birth to just make the decision, right? Like your dad was just like, I'm trained to be an executive at the dinner table, like make the decision to be a rocket, right? Make it up. Do you think that it is a little bit of nature versus nurture, or do you think you just like, this is who you are as a person?
I think it was taught to me over the years, but if you ask my husband, I hate making decisions at home.
There you go.
So I think because I make so many decisions at work, because that's how I was trained, I trained myself to develop that, then in my personal life, I make less decisions because of that.
I love that. This is really personal, you don't have to answer this question, but did that impact your choice of spouse? Like I want someone who's like,
It's just a make decision.
yeah,
Tell me what's for dinner.
I love that. Like sometimes I want to be like, I don't know, you decide what we're gonna do for dinner. Yeah, I love that. Tracy, how about you? When you make leadership decisions, is it mostly gut, mostly data, a little mix of both, and then do you think gender has a play?
It's definitely a combination of the two, and I'll do my research, due diligence, and then I just go with my gut. It's mostly, and I think it's more about who I am than anything else. And I don't really see a difference as it relates to men versus women, for me.
Yeah. Great. Now that
I would say I'm definitely data, but I'm a gut person. I bounced around a lot growing up as a kid, so my dad always chased the promotions. We bounced around schools a lot. So I was always the new kid in school. And because I grew up quickly, girls are not very nice, by the way, when you're young, right? Maybe not, that's a different conference. But, so you learn quickly how to read a room really, really fast and how to like trust your gut. And so I think I quickly learned how to gut decisions is typically like 99% just right. Now we can back it with data, but for me, so it was stage and talk, which is
Yeah.
why what also take interjective acting, which is why.
Yeah. I know that she won't watch this recording, but Jackie Ray, in case you're out there, I'm crushing it. It's always a mean girl. I don't know if Nat experiences, maybe they don't, but I had such a mean girl growing up. Yeah, Amy, check her out. Fuck it. Right. I think that was experience. But I think, I don't know, like, the mean girl experience, like, really shapes, at least for me, it shapes confidence and poise and, who am I going to be and goal setting for myself. Because, like, do you post things to Facebook just to make sure you can see it?
When I was acting and singing and on the red carpet a lot, I did.
Oh,
Yeah, I did. I don't now. I'm older and I don't care as much, but yeah.
does it make you petty that I still relate?
No.
Like, I'm pretty sure that Jackie Ray won't care that I spoke at the IWLA conference, but I'm still going to post it to Facebook. I know it, for sure. About women specifically and women in leadership in this industry. So I would hope that you've all seen a change, right? From male-dominated to male-dominated with an asterisk. Can I say that? Is that okay? What do you think it means for the future? Cast us a little future, Samantha. As women our age, your age, and you're fourth generation, so you are in line, right, to on the show. How does it change? What do you see? Cast us some vision on. Does the workplace change a little bit? Now AI is coming at us like 100 miles an hour too. But what do you see changes happening as women become leaders in the warehouse and logistics space?
Well, I hope it continues to grow, first off. I think that's really important for our industry because, again, there's plenty of women who I think could really excel in our industry because we just approach problems and solutions, I think, a little bit differently. I mean, again, in most of your households, your women run the household. They know the schedules. They know what's happening, who has appointments, etc. It's the same thing in the logistics world. Our customers are scheduling to us every single day. So I think it's getting that out there and helping the younger generation understand what our industry is and the impact that it has across not only the U.S. but the globe. So I think getting this organization and as well as people individually, getting that message out there because I don't think it's as well known as it could be.
I really appreciate that perspective. I don't talk to a lot of young women, but I would assume that impact, I've read this, I should have studied on this, sorry, I don't have study on this, but that Gen Z women, like, they want to have this global impact, they want to, like, really impact the world around them. Supply chain ecosystem literally does that every day, right? So if you really want to have an impact, what an amazing opportunity to start right here, right?
Yeah, COVID was a really eye-opener for a lot of my friends who thought they knew what I did, but they were talking about how her Cheez-Its is like $9 and complaining about it. And I was like, well, do you want to know why it's $9? Let's look at the supply chain. And she's like, oh, so this is what you do. And I was like, I've known you since I was 5 years old, but yes, this is what I do. But I think it just, again, opens people's eyes when you actually explain the industry. And to me, it's really interesting and has a positive impact.
Yeah, I totally agree. Tracy, how about you? What do you see for the future?
Well, I'm going to affirm that there will be more women in this industry.
I manifest it.
I have manifested universalism. And, a lot of my son's friends that just graduated from college, they studied supply chain. And, you think about the degrees that we all went, or people went from marketing to business or this or that, now it's supply chain. And I love to see it, and it's exciting. I think that we, as women, you shared a little bit of what I was thinking, is we're thinking 3, 4, 5 days ahead. And that's what we do for work as well. We're not just thinking about, okay, tomorrow I have a meeting at 3 o'clock. I'm thinking, okay, I have this meeting, they're gonna make a decision, so I need to make sure that the technology team knows that next week we're gonna have to launch, have an integration. So those things are going through our minds. So I think as women, we're just built that way. So we have the ability to forward things in advance, and I hope that we do that. that more in this industry, that it will continue to be that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I hadn't thought about you both kind of brought up the analogy of like being responsible on the home front and having to think further and further out. Like, I don't know if anyone signed their kid up for like soccer, and I thought to myself, this is going to become my problem. Right? Like, look at all these calendar days, right? I'm pretty sure my husband had no idea that there were soccer days on the calendar 3 months out.
Yeah.
But and how similar that is to the supply chain logistics. Like you are making those decisions today, they're going to impact your business. And someone else's business as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I also think it's an ecosystem, right? So as much as like, I would want to, and I would love to see more women, I think we will. We also need men. We need to have two different sides, of the equation. We need to see different ethnicities. We need to see different, like, just changes a little bit overall, I think, to make sure that we're all thinking, I bring something different to the table, you bring something different to the table, et cetera. So that would be my ideal workforce.
That's an interesting perspective. I like that. Quick funny story. I was 25-ish when I worked at OHL, which became Geodis, and we got the first Birchbox. Anyone remember Birchbox? Yeah, it's like one hand, two hands thing. So Birchbox was the original subscription box, and all of the 20-somethings were getting Birchboxes. And I remember going into the guy who ran Apple for OHL and knocking on the door and handing him this box. And if you remember the first Birchboxes, they were just like a little shoebox with travel beauty supplies in them. This man had never used a moisturizer in his life. He had no idea why I was handing him 1.1 ounces of moisturizer. Like, what is this? But long story short, they closed that deal and Geodis became, the biggest e-commerce distributor in years and years. They got the first Birchbox account. But the point is that having a different point of view, seeing the market from a different perspective, I am definitely not taking credit for them closing that deal by any stretch. But we did bring it, Katie and I brought it to the attention of the leadership team. Awesome. Yeah, and I think if I'm really reflecting on it now, I probably also would have told that young woman to go away. Right? Like if I'm reflecting today on who I am today in business, I think it's a good reminder that all ages and genders have a position that can be respected in the business and your ideas are real and valid. So I appreciate that very much. Okay, lightning round, 4-ish, 5-ish minutes to go. In the business of warehousing, logistics and supply chain, in the overall ecosystem, what is the one thing sort of keeping you up at night? The thing that, from the larger business perspective, either tariffs or fuel or what's going on in the news or something inside the business or the culture of the companies that you're in, et cetera, what is kind of the one thing keeping you up at night?
I have two. So what they kind of go off. So one would be just the uncertainty. If it's like there isn't one. The day-to-day, every change, tomorrow, what's the new headline going to be, the uncertainty and the lack of decision-making that we can all make in order to get more space. Can we renew? Is our customer going to want to renew? That keeps me up at night, because then I can't do my job either. And the second thing would be, on the flip side, construction has stopped and slowed tremendously on the warehouse space, and so but we have some activity pick up. So I do think at the end of this year we are going to have to be a little more constrained, and then that will be an issue again. So that keeps me up at night later because I don't have as much negotiating power to fight for you guys.
Yeah, uncertainty is definitely right up there, and I've had wonderful opportunities and really worked hard to get them to a certain point, and then they say, listen, the tariffs hit, and then we're just going to stay where we are. We're not going to change anything. So it really changes everything. It changes my pipeline. It changes the opportunity for the company to grow and all of it. So that keeps me up at night, yeah, for sure.
And besides your baby,
Yeah.
I'm sure you up at night.
Insomnia, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure. Anything else
trying to plan when there's literally no plan in the geopolitical world right now is tough, but I would also add the challenges between labor and technology, and I'm trying to understand where the labor market is going as the next generation comes up, and how can tech offset it, but at the end of the day, our industry will always need people. So understanding where that labor is going to come from is a challenge and a concern that I have.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us